What is a period, in your own words?
That is a great question. From my understanding, it is when, you ovulate? Is that the right term? I don't know.
Welcome to another episode of Dear Neighborhood. I'm your host, Kirstie Moore, and I'm here with
Gabriela from Ignite.
We're here at the Brooklyn Public Library, and we're hosting our first ever period packing party. Woo, 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 woo. Are you guys excited? I am.
I am. Let's get into it.
Woo, woo, woo. Hi, Gabby.
Hi, Kirstie.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm doing good. This is so cool. We're in at the Brooklyn Public Library just hosting our first period packing party.
I know, it's so exciting.
Everybody's here. I'm like so thankful. I'm just like looking at everybody who's here. Like, round of applause, everybody. I don't know if you'll pick it up, but this is so cool. I'm so happy. Can you introduce yourselves?
My name is Gabriela Lopez-Castillo. I'm born and raised in New York. I'm from Brooklyn. I guess for a little bit about me when it comes to menstrual equity, I've been working in the menstrual equity and period poverty space since 2020. I first learned about period poverty when I was volunteering for a food pantry during the pandemic. And one of the things that I realized when we were talking about the necessities that the community members that came in to receive items was we constantly talked about groceries, we constantly talked about clothing and fresh produce, and no one ever talked about period products. Mm-hmm. No one ever talked about pads, tampons, how those were a necessity at all. And it took a few people bringing that up and asking like if these products were available. So that kind of opened the floodgates for me to start going down a rabbit hole to finding out more about it.
Yeah.
And I just started working with different organizations and gaining knowledge and understanding of what menstrual equity looks like in both my community and communities everywhere. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of brought me to like where I am now. Nice. I've been doing a lot of work in this space for a few years now.
Yeah, and you're part of an organization called Ignite. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I work for an organization called Ignite, which is a nonprofit that focuses on training young women to be more politically and civically engaged on their college campuses and beyond. So we provide networking, resources for them to empower them and ignite, pun intended,
I like that.
Ignite their abilities to run for office one day. And so I've been working for them for a few months. I'm their New York fellow. Mm-hmm. So I specifically work with different college campuses and within my communities to find ways to make politics more accessible for anyone that wants to make an impact on their communities.
Amazing. Yeah, I also understood or found out about period poverty around, I think, 2020. And you just never really think about not having pads mm-hmm. and how that could affect somebody. Absolutely. And so I'm so glad that we're now really having these conversations and we're having things like these to help people get these products. Tell me about your first period.
Ooh. Okay, so my first period, I think I was 13 years old. It was at an Outback Steakhouse. And yeah, very iconic, I know, out of all places. And I like to think I'm very calm under pressure. Mm-hmm. So I was literally 13. It was to make it even more iconic, it was my dad's birthday. Oh. So it was his 52nd birthday. We were at Outback celebrating and I had to go to the bathroom all of a sudden and surprise. And thankfully, I'd had a decent amount of menstrual education due to middle school health classes and stuff, but it's very different when you see it happening. Mm-hmm. And I tend to cave in on myself when a little mini crisis happens. So I didn't call for anybody. I just stayed very calm and I stuffed a whole bunch of toilet paper and as much as I could. And I kind of waddled out the bathroom and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna stay very calm and quiet about this for the next week and a half.
A week and a half?
Yeah, I didn't
let anybody know?
No, I didn't even want to tell my mom about it. And so it kind of, when looking back at it now, it makes me realize how, when we talk about period poverty and menstrual equity, it's also important to take into account the societal stigmas and taboos that come along with that. The reason why we're embarrassed, the reason why we don't want to talk about it, the reason why we giggle and we're like, oh my gosh, she has a tampon. It's very eye-opening to look back at that now. And it makes me think, why was I embarrassed? Why did I want to tell anybody about that, you know? So hopefully I'm inspired and motivated to continue to work in destigmatizing that. So for my children one day, I want them to holler from the bathroom. Right. And I want them to be like, yeah, Mom, I got my period. I'm gonna be like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, period party.
Yeah, exactly. So that's something that really, when I look back at that memory, I'm like, okay, I can see the realizations better now than I did before.
the stigma around periods, that just reminds me of like when I was walking in Target yesterday, just getting the products for today, and my cart was like full of all these like period products, and I was just like looking over my shoulder like, oh my gosh, like people are gonna think like my flow is so heavy and I need all these pads. And
She needs 75
I need
tampons.
that many periods, like damn. I was so embarrassed, but like we should not be embarrassed because it's a natural thing that happens like every month, unfortunately. Unfortunately. And it's totally fine. Like we should be talking about it and there should be no cringing or anything. I know every time like I bring up my period and my family, I like to talk ever since like 2020 and the whole like let's normalize like this concept. I'd say, yeah, I'm on my period to my family, and my mom is always like, especially when I'm around my brothers, they're like, they don't need to know that. And I'm like, yes, they do need to know that, like, for sure. Like, I don't understand, like, why they shouldn't know what's happening with my body. It's a natural thing.
Absolutely.
So when I also have my own family, I would like to make sure that, like, periods, talking about it is a normal conversation. No one, like, it's not a hush-hush thing. And you feel okay with it. I'm trying to think back to my period story, and mine was not as funny as yours. I also knew my mom had prepped me about what was going to happen. I actually thought I had a scare not a scare, but I thought that I was going to get my period this one time, a couple months before my actual period came. And that's because I just didn't really understand the concept as much. But then when it actually came, I was 12 years old, and it was 9/11, and yeah, you never forget. You never forget. And
What a day.
What a day to remember. It was a Sunday and I was just about to go to church. And luckily then I didn't get cramps, but yeah, easy time to remember. What's the craziest period story that you've heard?
Oh my gosh, I mean, I think that a lot of the craziest period stories that I hear is when it comes to stigmas, and just seeing how people react to periods, especially like when it comes to relationships, is very interesting to me. And I think we talked about this a little bit at an event we attended earlier. Can I say that?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my God. Okay, so yeah, this is wild. So I was on Twitter, right? And so this young lady was talking about how one of the reactions of one of her, like a partner that she had dated previously, had kind of set her mindset to how she approached periods and tampons and navigating that with future relationships. And so, long story short, she had gotten her period at her partner's house, the partner she was dating at the time, and the person was so disgusted by like periods that they asked her to wrap up her tampon and not throw it in the trash at his house. And she basically became like so almost traumatized by that every time that she was like, if she got her period at like another partner's house or something like that, she would literally wrap up like her tampon and put it in her purse and walk out and throw it outside.
That is so sad.
And it was just so frustrating reading that, because it was like somebody made her feel so ashamed of a completely normal biological function that it affected the way she approached dating, it affected the way she felt about her body, it affected the way that she communicated with her future partners. And so when she was talking about that, the partner that she was dating currently thankfully was so healthy, and when she told him, like when she was at her house and she got her period for the first time, she asked him, okay, I'm just gonna wrap it up and like throw it outside, like just letting you know. And he like, his mouth dropped open in shock. Like she was saying that, like he was like, what do you mean? Like throw it in the, it's fine. But she was so taken aback by it and so relieved that somebody had made her feel normalized and accepted for something that should have been normalized and accepted from the get-go. So that might be more of an extreme story in comparison to other things we might experience, but it just shows that menstrual stigmas pervade every aspect of our lives, from our governments to our schools to our relationships. Like it's crazy.
It is. I wish a man would.
No, tell me about it.
That is ridiculous. Speaking of something that men are controlling, tell me about period tax.
So y'all, in about 21 states currently in the United States, there is the existence of something that we like to nickname the tampon tax. So the tampon tax or the period tax. It is an added charge to what's in the eyes of these legislators is a luxury good. So, for example, in many states, Viagra isn't taxed because it's like
That's
medicinal.
ridiculous.
It's a needed good. But periods products and menstrual products are still taxed as a luxury good. In many states, they are not allocated in different different, and like for example, like EBTs or different food stamps.
Food
Yes,
stamps,
exactly.
yeah.
I don't know why that was not on my
audience.
brain. So for example, in like many food stamp programs across the U.S., period products aren't allocated for them, and so you would have to purchase it on your own. So there's about 21 states that still charge the period tax to this day, and what a lot of people don't realize, through those taxes, states are making millions of dollars off of our bodies, off of a normal biological function. So it's not just a little like cute little tax that's taxed on and can be taken out. Like there is a monetary and economical advantage for these legislators to make money off of our bodies. And I think if anything, should be a reason why we should be advocating to end it on a national scale.
I so agree. Okay, so if anybody wants to understand like what they can do in their communities, do you have any organizations that they can start volunteering with?
So there are so many, and I think one of the biggest things is to ask and inquire within your community. Ask like your friends, your peers, they're a part of your community. We all have circles of community members that we can turn to. So trying to like reach out to your local like domestic violence shelters, to your local food pantries. There are lots of menstrual cabinets and lots of community fridges and mutual aid efforts across New York City. A lot of them are in Brooklyn and in Queens. And it's always important to kind of like, don't be afraid to do your research, ask around, even ask like your friend. You don't know what your friends are going through. You don't know what your fellow menstruators are going through. And in a place where a box of period products can go up to $12, $13, $14, $15, $16, that's a big monthly expense for somebody that is on limited funds. And so when we think about like the average menstruator, I think spends up to at least over 10 grand in period products over the course of like their menstrual lifetime. And that money adds up. Like in a perfect world, period products would be free. And fun fact, there's only one country that has made that happen. Scotland is the only country.
Go Scotland.
Scotland is the only country in the entire world that has made period products free for anybody. Anybody, anywhere, you can access period products for free. And in a perfect world, that'd be free everywhere. But ask in your community, ask if your friends need period products. If you have extras and you can just donate them, drop them off at your shelter. They're always items that are needed because it's a constant cycle. It is something that is never stopping. Like we have to look forward to it month to month. So yeah, look for mutual aid efforts. A few great organizations I can think of. Pandemic Periods is another organization. The Brooklyn Public Library's own Cycle Alliance. Shout out Rakisha. They have a menstrual cabinet here. We also have Fenix Fridge, which is a community fridge, mutual aid effort in Queens that has a menstrual cabinet that one of my peers actually built from scratch. Like she turned her into a whole carpenter, and and so they constantly. It's about having like 24/7 and constant access to products that you might need and to be able to access them without shame, without an attack on your dignity. Just like be able to walk up, grab your period products and go. That's what I envision a great way to ensure access.
Is there any resources that people could like read up on or?
Oh, there would be. So there's so many facets that go into the movement of menstrual equity. We can talk about like the tampon tax, and there's an organization called Period Law, which is one of the only legislative efforts across the U.S. that is working to eradicate the tampon tax. So what they do is they get teams of lawyers within different states and they attack like the legislators, and they sometimes do it through like the courts. They sue, they advocate it by contacting legislators. So Period Law is a great way if you're interested in the legal side of eradicating the tampon tax. If you're interested in more like mutual aid efforts, Period is a national organization that aims to attack like period poverty on all scales through advocacy and education. If you're interested in more menstrual education and just destigmatizing and attacking like the taboos within your community, a great organization I know is called Hate the Dot, and they provide menstrual and biological education and resources for people that just want to know more about their bodies. Like there can be the simplest, sometimes I feel like it can be the simplest questions about periods that like to this day I don't even know. And so sometimes it's just understanding more about your body and understanding more about your reproductive cycle. That's also just as important.
That's so true.
So many things. Sometimes it feels like it's so obvious, but it's really just because of a lack of education. And that's where I feel like in the menstrual equity movement, the best things to approach these invisible inequities are through advocacy, going to your legislators, reposting, spread the word on like your social pages. Like just ask like a random person, like, how do you feel about periods? You know, like ask like a man in your family, like, yo, like what do you know about periods? And just like, education starts at home, education starts in our school. So destigmatize, normalize, organizing in your community. Like this is just one example of organizing a period packing party with our peers and our friends. Like we're all coming together to address an issue, and like things like this is what stimulates movements. It's what stimulates long long-term, systemic, tangible changes.
Yeah.
And so, like, y'all, like, we're doing it. Like,
We're
we're really a
doing
part of
it.
it. So
Yes.
I'm really excited for
We're
it.
the change that we want to see. And this is amazing. This is such a good conversation. And now I think we're gonna start packing some products.
Let's do it. Let's go.
Woo, let's
Yeah.
go. Thank you so much. This is so good. I'm so glad.
I got you. I got you.
Everybody give her a round of applause. Thank you guys so much for being here. Do you know how long a period lasts?
It's what, like a week?
3 to 4 days.
1 week, 1 week, maybe a week and a half, less than 2 weeks.
Is that your final answer?
I don't know. Okay.
So you don't know?
No, I'm guessing a week.
You have sisters.
Okay, we don't talk about this. Break the stigma.
How many pads do you think a person uses on average during their period?
Asking a lot of good questions, Kirstie.
I feel like you have to change every 8 hours for tampons, but I don't know about pads. I feel like you could probably have that in longer.
Maybe
16?
Where's the math on that?
I don't know, about a week. Say you're using like 2, 3 a day. I'm assuming like 2.
9.
We did it.
Yes, we did.
I'm so extremely thankful for having you like letting us host at the Brooklyn Public Library and just like helping us get everything together. Like I am so like thankful that I met you and just for everything. So thank you so much. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Rakisha Kearns-White, and I'm a young adult librarian here at the main branch of the Brooklyn Public Library. I've been here for over 18 years, and about 4 years ago, I started a teen period advocacy group called Cycle Alliance, and our purpose is to destigmatize and degender conversations around menstruation and to tackle period poverty. And earlier this year in January, we created a period pantry in the youth wing at the Central Branch, and that relies strictly on end product donations. So it was so exciting when you reached out to me, and y'all had the same mission in mind, and we had a chance to work together because it's all about community partnerships and cooperation between folks in the community, and that's the only way we can really combat period poverty.
Amen, amen. Why did you feel like you needed to start the Cycle Alliance?
Well, there were several reasons. The first one, I read a book called Period Power, written by the young person who started the organization period.org, and I didn't realize that there was even such a thing as period poverty, especially those who are in between houses, college students, high school students. And also, since I've been working with teens for a long time, they always come to me for help. And one day, this young lady came to the library. She was caught unawares, and she went to our bathrooms. We didn't have any dispensers in our bathrooms. She went to an officer, they couldn't help, and another librarian, they couldn't help, so they got me. And so I said, well, the state just passed this law that all public schools in New York State need to be equipped with menstrual products for grades 6 through 12. And I asked my administration, why don't we do that at the library? Is there a way we can do it? And that's how it took off.
Amazing. I love that so much. And it's probably helped so many people.
I just want to do my part, whether it's the free dispensers in the bathroom or those who come in for their menstrual, the free menstrual kits, because you never know when you're caught unawares, you never know when you're caught in a tight pinch, and things like that.
Okay, so I wanted to hear an interesting story about you and your first period story. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. So I got my period when I was 12 years old, and I was back in the days in 1984. But I had learned about periods and menstruation 3 years prior. I was like 9. And my mom didn't tell me how babies were made. She just told me to expect my period. And if you don't get your period, that means you're pregnant. So over the course of a couple of years, like my friends were all getting their periods and I wasn't. So I just thought I was pregnant this whole time. And then when my period came, I was so happy that I wasn't pregnant. And then it really hit me what it was. And now I'm a mother of 2 menstruators. I made sure they had all the facts and information and were prepared beforehand, so they weren't thinking that they were pregnant for like 2 years.
I'm so weak. Okay, so why do you think it's important for people to, I guess, come to the libraries and support their libraries?
Well, the first thing is the library is more than just books. It's a place to form communities. It's a place to do collaborative work. We have lots of programs to help those in need. We have reentry service programs for the formerly incarcerated. We have social workers for those who are experiencing homelessness. We are a safe and inclusive place for people who live in shelters, people who may be suffering from mental illness. Also, a lot of teens and LGBTQ plus folks who have been abandoned by their families. The library is a welcoming, warm place for them to have community.
It's so important for us to be a part of this Brooklyn Public Library and just libraries in general, keeping them alive. And we wouldn't be able to have such a cool period packing party without it. So I wanted to thank you and thank you again for telling us your story and why you started the Cycle Alliance. I hope everybody learns more about period poverty and try to help out as well as much as they can. And yeah, we are the change that we want to see. It starts with us.
Exactly, and the library is one of the few free public spaces, and I was so glad I was able to provide this free space for you. And anybody who's interested in donating products, they can bring them to the Central Library. And it doesn't have to be a whole pack, it could be a half-use pack. And we will make period kits, and you are making the change you want to see.
Bye guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you.